Hey Chaotic Crew, Brian here back with another spooky deck from Duskmourn. This time we're tackling Arabella Abandoned Doll. And you know what, even though there's a doll in the name, it's not a doll, it's an action figure, okay? So Arabella is a 2-mana 1/3 legendary artifact creature. It's a toy, and whenever Arabella attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. So very strong commander here, very quick aggro deck in Boros colors, which makes complete sense, right? And there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. You can do more with the dealing X damage, you can be gaining life, you can focus on the token generation, or just playing a bunch of low power creatures. Lots of ways you can go about it. I sort of have a mishmash of a little bit of everything in this deck, so I want to dive right into it. First off, right, we want to be making that army of creatures, right? So we want a lot of tokens. It's probably the best way to do that. So we need an army of toys. Starting off, Adeline, a great way to get a lot of tokens on the battlefield. Same with Anim Pakal. She's going to continuously generate more and more tokens, and they're going to be artifacts as well. I prefer for the tokens in this deck to be artifacts, and we'll get to that in a second. There's sort of a backup plan, a backup commander that cares about having artifacts in the battlefield, so when we get to that I'll discuss that, but most of the token generators I wanted them to be artifacts unless they were just too good. Charge the Mites gives us 2 artifacts. They also have Toxic, so we are running a bit of Toxic / Infect in this deck, so something to keep in mind there. And if you don't want to get instantly targeted by your opponents, maybe you take those cards out. Clown Car, a great way to get some tokens in the battlefield. 4th Aerolingus, probably a game ender here, right? Even if you cast X where it's 4, you make 4 2/2s, you attack with Arabella, you're already dealing 5 damage and gaining 5 life, and then you're taking the Monarchy, so definitely solid there. Loyal Apprentice just generates a token each turn. Ocelot Pride is really good because I can make tokens of any copies of whatever tokens you have, so that's very good there too. Oltec Matter Weaver is a very creature heavy deck, and so we can be making gnomes or making copies of other artifact tokens we control, which is nice there too. Rabble Rousing is good. It creates an insane amount of tokens, and the Hideaway is just cherry on the top. Skrelv's Hive, making more Toxic Mites, and same with White Sun's Twilight, also kind of a board wipe, so great to have there. And then Wildfire Awakener is going to be making these 1/1s that are going to be burning our opponents as well, which kind of fits with the theme with Arabella, since Arabella is going to be dealing damage to each opponent with every time it attacks. And then we can make stuff that will also burn our opponents as well. And we are going to be burning a lot. We have a few other cards here that are going to do a lot. We've got a Gate Instigator, which whenever another creature you control enters, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. And itself is a 1 power creature, which is going to work great with our commander. We can even offspring this to sort of double that up. Alibu is the alternate commander we were talking about, and it's going to give our artifact creatures haste, and whenever one or more artifact creatures you control attack, it deals damage to a target, and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control. So having as many tapped artifact tokens is pretty great, which is why I tried to make sure we were getting artifact for the most part, except for certain cards, right, that were just too good to pass up. Impact Tremors doing the same thing as a Gate Instigator, but it's an enchantment. Molten Gatekeeper is doing the same thing as well, but it's an artifact, and it can also bring itself back from the grave, which is really good as well. Warleader's Call does the same thing, but it's also an anthem. It gives all our creatures +1/+1, which could be enough to turn the tide if we've got a lot of them, but keep in mind, if we have a lot of them, our commander may not trigger, right, because we have some 2-power creatures in this deck too, some 2-power tokens, so something to keep in mind there. And then Soulfim doubles our damage that we're dealing, and we can make it indestructible by discarding 2 cards, so pretty solid there too. We also need to be drawing lots of cards. Enduring Innocence is really great, right? Whenever one or more other creatures with power 2 or less enter, you draw a card. Only once a turn though, right? But when it dies, it comes back as an enchantment, but before it dies, it's a creature that fulfills our requirements, so really good there. Idol of Oblivion draws us a card anytime we make a token. Skull Clamp is going to be really good for our 1/1 tokens. And Splitskin Doll, I kept it in the deck. You could probably take this card out. It's a little more generic, but it fits so well with the theme, and especially the Duskmourn set did a really good job with this. You're pretty much just going to have an enter and draw card, right? But it just does a really good job with that theme, like I said. Staff of the Storyteller is really good because it makes a token, and then you can pay a white, remove a counter from it to draw a card, and then whenever a token enters, you get a counter on it. So really good repeatable card draw, and it does make a token when it enters too. And then Takasha's Welcome and Welcoming Vampire both are essentially, you know, getting you more draws similar to the Enduring Innocence. You have a few of these abilities in the deck, and having multiple at once is great, but just having one of them is game-changing too. This next category is Extra Scary, and this is just cards that will either accelerate our game plan or protect our commander when we want it to get in, or make it easier for our commander to get in. So those are just some sneak peeks of what we're going at. Arabella here, the first one, obviously going to be giving us 2 combats. Relentless Assault does the same thing, but having it on a creature is really paramount in a creature deck. Cloak of the Bat gives, a creature flying in haste, so helps our commander get through, and if it dies, which it probably will be targeted a few times, because it is very dangerous, right? It will help it come back in with haste. Downly doubles the triggers, which is busted on our commander. Duelist Heritage gives double strike, which we don't, maybe not necessarily want on our turn, but could potentially use it as politics for opponents. If we have Toxic or Infect on our commander, then we might want Duelist Heritage to come out. So that's something to think about. Giver of Runes protects our commander, so does Mother of Runes, so does Skrelv, Defector Might. They all three allow us to attack in with our commander unblocked, essentially. Mother and Giver are better at protecting them from removal as well. Grafted Exoskeleton, really the only card that's going to be giving Infect here, and pretty much makes it so that if we have enough things on board, Grafted Exoskeleton can kill people in one hit. Typically, it's mainly going to do, 3-4 poison counters, but a couple different hits with Grafted Exoskeleton, and that's just the game right there. Helm of the Host also essentially doubles our triggers by giving us a second copy of our commander, which, will play off of each other, so that's very nice there. Rising of the Day gives haste. The shield can prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to attacking artifact creatures. Iroast does the same thing and gives it menace. Lasheel also draws us a card, which is nice. And then Norn from Duskmourn. We can essentially attack with our commander. If it gets blocked, we can choose to exile it before damage and then recast it later, which is kind of nice. And then Swiftfoot Boots obviously protects. Sabira helps us be unblocked, and Sticky Fingers gives it menace. Ragged Playmate also helps it be unblocked. We have a few ramp pieces, not a ton here. We don't really need a lot. This deck is pretty low to the ground, but having a couple is not bad at all, especially if you need a burst of mana or some mana fixing. Dazzling Theater on the left gives our creature spells Convoke, and then Prop Room on the right untaps each creature we control during each other player's untap step, so very strong there. And then Ragavan, he kind of goes in the ramp category. We have other ways to make people unblockable, so we could also make Ragavan unblockable, right? So also good to have there, and potentially get some good stuff off of our opponent's libraries, get a treasure token, and go from there. But removal, we do have a lot of removal here, and some of it on creatures as well. Chaos Warp, obviously any red deck needs that. Dwergar Hedgemage and of course Lorna the Third Path are great ways to get rid of artifacts, enchantments. Fel the Mighty is a good board wipe, especially in a low power deck. Same with Battle of Bywater, both very solid there. Witch Enchanter is an MDFC that can get rid of artifacts and enchantments, which is nice. We also have Path and Swords. And then the two wild horses, we have Thraben Charm, which is mainly a great removal spell that can also be a graveyard exiling spell. You always want some graveyard hate in your deck, so good to have this here. And then Untimely Malfunction, you can use it to destroy an artifact or essentially as a redirect spell, so very solid there too. And then we do have a bunch of lands, namely we have most of the artifact lands. We do also run Inventor's Fair, which is really nice to get Alabu or other game-winning pieces to our hand. And then obviously, this is a horror set. We need a sequel. So these are ways to protect our commander or get cards back out of our graveyard. And overall, this deck does just a great job of just continuing to run on the board as fast as it can. So let's give it a playtest and see how it goes. Starting off with a 2-lander, not bad because our commander kind of likes that. So let's go ahead and draw. We'll play Command Tower, and we will pass the turn. We don't have anything to play on turn 1. This deck will have that sometimes, so you may want to keep an eye out. We'll go ahead and play our commander, Arabella, right? Next turn we can attack in, and it's going to deal 1 damage, and we're going to gain 1 life. So that will be good there. And next turn we can obviously play more, which will help out too. Next turn we don't get the land, which is unfortunate. So I'm actually going to give it the Sticky Fingers, which gives Arabella Menace. When it deals combat damage, we get a treasure, and if it dies, we draw a card. So we will swing in. They'll take 1. They'll all take 1. We'll gain 1. I get a treasure. We'll go ahead and use the treasure and this for Skrell's Hive. Yeah, I think we do that, and then that way, next turn we'll start making it. We'll start losing life, but our commander gains us so much life anyways. It's not that big of a deal. So solid there. And then next turn, again, no land, which sucks. We do have the Might. We may want to start playing the Takasha's Welcome to get us some card draw here as well, which is really important. I would probably recommend that, because as soon as we can get to Fell the Mighty, I think we're in a really good spot as well. So I think that would be the play. We swing this. This can't even block, so you would swing it if you have an open target maybe. You could also play Selfless Spirit as indestructible, as a way to protect your commander and make it indestructible if needed. But I think the play would be to play Takasha's Welcome and then to start generating card draw with Skrell's Hive. I think it's pretty soon that they'll start to get rid of Arabella, but wouldn't be too much of a problem. Let's go ahead and try another game. Okay, this time we have 35 lands with the MDFCs, so shouldn't be too bad here. Let's try a mulligan. Okay, that's better. We have 3 lands here, so we'll take this. And we do have Ocelot Pride, which I like. And I think we just we draw. We'll play the Battlefield Forge. We'll take 1 and cast Ocelot Pride. Great turn 1 play here. And this way we can go ahead and start making tokens, which is going to be really beneficial. So next turn, we'll go ahead and play the Mountain and cast our commander. Swing Ocelot Pride. We, in step, will make a token because we'll have gained a life. And now we don't even need to attack with Ocelot Pride. We can just attack with our commander, and we're going to be gaining life that way. Next turn, we get a Ragavan, which is not bad. We could play that in. This comes in tapped. I think I feel safer playing the Selfless Spirit as a protection. And we go ahead and swing in our commander. Our opponents are losing 4 life, and we're gaining 4 life. In step, we will be making a cat as well. Let's see. And we are just popping off. Turn 4, no land, unfortunately. So we could play Rising of the Day. That doesn't really do a whole lot for us. I think Ragavan's the best, or Wildfire Awakener. We could convoke it out. Right, we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can convoke out 4 more tokens. So if we do that and make 4 tokens. Let's see, let's do Citizens for now. So this puts us as the City's Blessing, which is pretty great for Ocelot Pride. And then it also gives us 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we're dealing 9 damage to our opponents this turn, which is a lot. We don't have a ton of mana, but if our commander dies, we can Savine's Reclamation it back out. and we are just in a really strong position, right, with this game. If we can draw more mana, that'd be ideal, but we're going to be putting in lots of damage here. So really a solid start there. This deck is pretty quick. The main problem is it can run out of gas. Like if we get board wiped twice, like if we had an exile board wipe that was put against us that last game, that might have been pretty deadly. But let's do one more. We have 3 lands, so of course we're gonna keep. We'll draw. Delny is a great card. We'll do Fury Karm Snarl next turn. We get the Loyal Apprentice, which is really good. Let's go ahead and play the Commander. And then turn 3, we get Command Tower. So I think here we go with Loyal Apprentice. It's going to make more tokens. And then maybe the next turn we go Delny. The main thing is I don't want them to target Arabella too quickly here. Right? If we can get enough tokens out, we can quickly Clever Concealment. So let's go ahead and do the Loyal Apprentice. And then we add a Thopter. And then we pass the turn ski. Or, sorry, no, we will obviously attack. Gain 2 life, all of our opponents lose 2. Next turn we get a land. So we can play the Plains. And if we cast Delny now, we actually only have... if we cast Delny now, and then we'll get 2 Thopters, we'll have enough for Clever Concealment, so that's pretty good. And then, so we'll go ahead and do that. We get 2 more Thopters at the beginning of combat, which brings us to a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures with power 2 or less on our battlefield, which means we're going to be dealing 12 damage to each of our opponents when Arabella attacks. We're gaining 12 life, and we also have enough, right? We also have enough for Clever Concealment, and then we can essentially win the game next turn because we can convoke out Wildfire Awakener and then win the game potentially if no one has any instant speed removal. So very strong deck here. If you get the right hand, can be really powerful. I hope you enjoyed the deck tech. I also just wanted to say thank you guys so much. We're so close to being able to monetize the channel, so appreciate all your support. Make sure to like the video if you liked it, and comment down below what you'd take out of the deck, what you'd put in. I love to see all those comments that you put. And otherwise, I hope you keep enjoying the content. I'm going to come back next week with another fresh deck tech, and we'll go from there. But until then, you all have a good one. Bye.